come together, and united we shall stand. Let us live and strive for freedom in South Africa, our land. The VBS scandal is back, and this time around, the leader of the EFF, Julius Malema, and the deputy president of the EFF, Shivambu, have been directly implicated. You remember, guys, when the scandal started, one of the defense from the EFF was that how is it possible for Julius Malema and Shivambu to be accused of being part of the people that have collapsed the VBS, whereas their names are not mentioned in any documents? This was their defense back then. And again, this is the reason why their supporters actually believed that the leader of the EFF and the deputy president of the EFF were being persecuted because their names were nowhere to be found in any documents that has to do with the VBS. But this time around, the former chair of the VBS, who has been thrown to jail for 15 years, has directly implicated Julius Malema and Shivambu. I mean, guys, let me jog your memory. You remember this is what Julius Malema said?
And expressed great disgust at those who have facilitated the collapse of the bank for selfish and self-enrichment purposes at the expense of the poor. VBS Mutual Bank was founded on the deposit of humble rural self-help financial associations like Stockfels and burial societies. The corruption and maladministration, therefore, saw many of the villagers unable to even bury their dead. We therefore reiterate that all those who have been found to have benefited illegally from the bank's collapse must be criminally prosecuted. However, we reject the witch hunt and mob justice that seeks to declare people guilty through the courts of public opinion. The law must take its course, and all who are implicated must fully cooperate with law enforcement institutions. The Deputy President of the EFF, Shivambu, has taken the EFF leadership into confidence in relation to the VBS media claims, and we have no reason to doubt him, more so because he is not mentioned in the official Motaung VBS report. The EFF has not been mentioned in the report, neither has it been accused of any wrongdoing. We note that several persons mentioned in the report are challenging the validity and the lawfulness of the report on the basis that Advocate Motaung did not afford them the right to put their side of the story. Therefore, any pronouncement based on the validity of the report are premature. The enemies of our revolution who wish to see the EFF, which is the only voice of the poor, silenced, are seeking to bring both our Deputy President and the organization through a back door into the VBS saga. We have full confidence in our Deputy President, Shivambu. We remain united and unshaken by any and all attempts to slow down or discredit the EFF. We reiterate that we reject categorically any suggestion and move to shut down VBS.
So this is what Julius Malema said back then, that we are clear. Our names are nowhere to be found. Our names are nowhere to be found, and we are actually calling for the people that have collapsed VBS to be held accountable. These are the words of Julius Malema, and it looks like Julius Malema's wish would actually come true, because this time around, their names are there. This time around, their names are there. And these people have been implicated by the chair, the former chair of VBS. It is a big deal. Whether people like it or not, it is a big deal. And for some reason, man, it feels like Pauli van Wyk from Daily Maverick has been vindicated. You remember, this is something that Pauli van Wyk has been talking about for years. And people said that, no, Pauli, stop talking about VBS, stop trying to link the EFF with VBS. It looks like you, Pauli, is actually obsessed with the VBS and linking the EFF with VBS. And people used to say that if EFF is quite confident that it has nothing to do with VBS, why don't you take Pauli to court and actually sue her for the damage that she was doing to the brand of the EFF? It is quite interesting how the EFF never actually took Pauli to court and said that, man, this woman is tarnishing the brand of the EFF and we cannot allow that to happen. And today, the former chair of the EFF, of VBS, Tshifhiwa Matodzi, has implicated Floyd Shivambu and Julius Malema and has actually pointed at them and said these people have actually benefited millions and have also contributed in the collapse of this mutual bank.
Happy Friday. Welcome to the Clement Manyatela Show. It's great to have you with us here on 702. I hope you're well this morning. Let's kick off the show with the 702 open line. 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. We spoke about Tshifhiwa Matodzi yesterday on the 702 open line. This is the kingpin behind the brazen looting of more than 1.8 billion rand from the VBS Mutual Bank. He was the chairperson.
And guys, if you are named by the kingpin, what are the chances that he's telling the lie? What are the chances that the former chair of VBS is actually telling the lies? Because this is the narrative that has been driven around right now, that someone paid Matodzi to lie about VBS. This is some of the defense coming from the EFF. So my question is, if you are being named by someone who was top, someone holding the higher office in VBS, the kingpin of the whole corruption, what are the chances that he's telling the lie?
Of the VBS Mutual Bank was the chairperson of Vele Investments, which was the majority shareholder in VBS. Vele Investments, which sent monies to Zgamega, which is owned by Floyd Shivambu's brother. And when we spoke yesterday, some of you were not happy with the fact that he actually got a 15-year jail sentence, but he entered a plea with the state. He said, I am going to talk and expose more about how the system operated. And boy, oh boy, has he started singing. I have been going through Tshifhiwa Matodzi's affidavit that implicates senior politicians in the ANC, in the EFF, in the SACP. It even implicates the former Director General of Treasury, Dondo Mogajane. So on the open line this morning, I want you to bear with me. I want to read you the key aspects that are coming out of this affidavit that I've come across on how the EFF and Floyd Shivambu and Julius Malema had their lives sponsored, had received monies from Matodzi, whose company was Vele, and Vele was the majority in VBS. Matodzi himself is telling us clearly here what his relationship was between EFF, Julius Malema, and Floyd Shivambu. So this,
and sorry, man, for actually cutting Clement. People saying that this VBS scandal is driven by the media to actually tarnish the name of the EFF. Why don't they focus on other political parties that are involved in the VBS scandal? I think one thing that South Africans are actually failing to understand is that it is not surprising to hear that the ANC was there in that corruption. We all know that ANC was there in that corruption. It is not surprising to hear that SACP was there in the corruption. It is not. But when you have a political party like the EFF, when you have the leaders like Julius Malema, the people that are talking a lot about protecting poor black people, you find out that These people were actually there assisting the ANC to destroy this bank that belonged to the poor citizens of this country. This is where the scandal actually comes. It is not surprising to hear that ANC has anything to do with this VBS scandal. It is not surprising. Even if right now the EFF has been accused of taking 16 million rands, it is nothing compared to 1.8 billion that was actually looted in that bank. But the fact that Julius Malema and the EFF were there helping the ANC to destroy this bank, that is the scandal. That is the scandal. So to people that are saying that, why don't you focus on the ANC? Why don't you talk about the ANC? Why don't you talk about the SACP? Why don't you talk about other political parties that are implicated? All of those political parties are corrupt. The leaders of those organizations, we know that are corrupt. South Africans know that the leaders of those political organizations are corrupt. But the EFF has actually positioned themselves as this incorruptible political party, as the political party that actually cares for poor black people. And this is the reason why VBS has been hitting hard at the EFF more than what it's doing to other political parties or organizations. This is why it is a scandal when you hear that the leadership of the EFF has allegedly been involved in this mess. This is why it is a scandal.
This is in his words. Remember Pauli van Wyk, the Daily Maverick journalist, revealed how VBS money flowed from there to Vele up until it got to the EFF. And then she was attacked for it. Even yesterday I said to you, has the EFF ever taken Pauli van Wyk to court? Because they threatened to do that. And of course, many of us knew they were bluffing at the time.
And this is the reason why it is so suspicious, because they never took her to court. They never took her to court. Despite the damage that she was doing to the EFF brand, they never actually took her to court. And I think deep down, the EFF supporters actually wanted the EFF to take Pauli van Wyk to court so that they can prove that this woman is tarnishing the name of the EFF. But the fact that the EFF never took Pauli to court, it is suspicious on its own.
So, on the open line this morning, I want you to bear with me. I want to read you the key aspects that are coming out of this affidavit that I've come across on how the EFF and Floyd Shivambu and Julius Malema had their lives sponsored, had received monies from Matodzi, whose company was Vele, and Vele was the majority in VBS. Matodzi himself is telling us clearly here what his relationship was between EFF, Julius Malema, and Floyd Shivambu. So this is in his words. Remember Pauli van Wyk, the Daily Maverick journalist, revealed how VBS money flowed from there to Vele up until it got to the EFF. And then she was attacked for it. Even yesterday I said to you, has the EFF ever taken Pauli van Wyk to court? Because they threatened to do that. And of course, many of us knew they were bluffing at the time. Because they don't want to go to court. Because when you get to court, you open your books now. There's so much that is going to be revealed. And you don't have control over that. And I asked you yesterday, does anybody know if the EFF ended up taking Pauli van Wyk to court? I'll ask Pauli van Wyk to come on the show, probably before we wrap up the 702 open line. She has also been going through this affidavit. So I want to read to you what the affidavit says. I want you to bear with me. I will read you the key aspects of what it says about Dondo Mogajane, about Floyd. This man details meetings that he attended at Julius Malema's house. He details how the EFF and these two leaders benefited from the VBS loot. So I'm going to read those for you. I just want you to bear with me. And then I'm going to go to your calls. Because I appreciate that some of you don't know about this affidavit and you haven't read it. So I want us to be on the same page here. It's not just the EFF. it's the ANC as well. Dr. Zweli Mkhize is being mentioned here. So I'm going to read that for you on the open line, and then I'm going to go to your calls. Is that fine? Wonderful.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
Okay, so Tshifhiwa Matodzi has started singing, and I have to tell you, I did expect that the minute he starts singing, oh my goodness, it's going to be explosive. But what I'm reading in this affidavit is crazy. After 9:30, I will bring in Pauli van Wyk. I'll bring in my colleague Tsidimadia as well. They've been going through this affidavit as well. So I want to explain to you what's happened and maybe look at what the consequences then will be when I bring them on. That's why I'm asking you to just bear with me, because it's going to take just a bit of time for me to explain, because I'm just telling you what you...
And guys, if you haven't read the affidavit, I will put the link of that affidavit in the description. I will make sure that I will put the link of that affidavit in the description so that you can read it yourself. I was reading it too since yesterday, but it's quite long. It's quite long, but I'm still reading it.
Tshifhiwa Matodzi says. Now, I'm going to start with Denim Caesar. Denim Caesar is the former Treasurer General of the ANC in Limpopo. Tshifhiwa Matodzi says in the affidavit that he met with Denim Caesar, and Denim Caesar, there was an understanding of what Denim Caesar was going to do in helping put pressure on municipalities to invest money into VBS. And he says in the affidavit, when I met with Denim Caesar and another gentleman, Mr. Matsepe, we regularly discussed strategies and proposals to generate more municipal investments, and the discussion would be around making additional funds available to bribe municipal officials. I knew that the gratification payments were intended to include the municipal officials to place new investments with or roll over existing investments with VBS. Around the 20th of December 2017, I received a WhatsApp message from Matsepe. Matsepe is a business partner of Denim Caesar, requesting that a gratuitous payment be made to the then mayor of Vhembe, Mrs. Florence Radzilani. Just for context, Florence Radzilani is, as we speak now, an MEC in Limpopo government. At some point, she had to step down together with Denim Caesar for the step-aside rule of the ANC, but they were later on returned to their positions. But she's very much now in the executive in the Limpopo province. That's just the context. This man goes further to say, I've never met the mayor, because Florence Radzilani at the time was the mayor of Vhembe. He says, I've never met the mayor and most of the Vhembe municipality staff, as I was not customer facing at the bank. In the WhatsApp message, Matsepe informed me that the mayor wanted, quote unquote, Christmas money, as the 300,000 rand that was already paid to her and the speaker was not enough for the job they were doing. The gratuitous amount Matsepe was requesting was 1.5 million rand. This payment could not be made, and it was agreed that this request will be finalized after the December holidays. On the 16th of January 2018, I received a long WhatsApp message from Matsepe regarding this issue. It appeared to me that Matsepe had discussed with Poppy about the gratuity being requested as payment to the mayor. It further transpired that Poppy had wanted the mayor to invoice VBS directly using her own entity to ensure that such amounts indeed would end up in the mayor's hands. Now, that's Florence Radzilani, and how he explains how Florence Radzilani was paid 300,000 rand already. This is the mayor of Vhembe, right? There are people at Vhembe who were busy investing money. Remember, it was illegal to invest municipal funds into a mutual bank. But the whole point of bringing in Denim Caesar and Florence Radzilani, according to Tshifhiwa Matodzi, is that they had to put political pressure on the accounting officers to do so. And that was done, which is why there's a number of CFOs, accounting officers who were suspended and fired by the then Premier of Limpopo, Sten Mathabate, announced that. So those are ANC politicians and how they were involved. But he goes further to say, to my knowledge, Denim Caesar was a politician, and at the relevant time, he was the provincial treasurer of the ANC in Limpopo province. Right? And then he goes on to say that Denim Caesar assisted, Denny would be paid out of commission. So the work that Denim Caesar was going to do in putting pressure on municipalities to illegally invest money in VBS, this was how he was going to be paid. And I quote here, for assisting VBS in securing municipal investments. That was the agreement. And then Denim Caesar would be paid out of commission paid by VBS to Moshate, his business partner. To my knowledge, Denny's rewards for his involvement by using his political influence, which would lead to VBS securing municipal investments, Matsipe and Moshate, his business partners, were effecting such a reward for agents' commission received from VBS. So for putting political pressure on these municipalities, that's how he was paid, through his business partners. Now, we move to paragraph 11. This is where it mentions the former Director General of Treasury, Dondo Mogajane. Tshifhiwa Matodzi says in his statement that he met with Dondo Mogajane, and when he met with Dondo Mogajane was with other people, someone called Raliom, and that person was involved in irregular activities in the following manner. And then he states them. Now listen to this part. Around August 2017, VBS started receiving inquiries from municipalities regarding communication from National Treasury, which was informing them, the municipalities, to withdraw their investments from VBS, since the municipal management account prohibits any such investments with a mutual bank, of which VBS was. So that's the Municipal Finances Management Act. See the copy of communication herewith. So this person is indicating to us that there was a time in 2017 that Treasury told municipalities, disinvest. You were not supposed to put that money into the municipalities. And then he goes further to say, I discussed with Raliom, who informed me that he had a close relationship with Dondo Mogajane, and he will arrange a meeting between myself and Dondo. To my recollection, I had at least 5 meetings with Dondo Mogajane. One of those took place at Pedro Portia Cigar Lounge at Cedar Square in Fourways. The other meeting took place at VBS offices in Rivonia, whilst the other third meeting took place at Eagle Canyon on the 8th of October 2017. The other meetings, we had Treasury and the Reserve Bank. In all these 5 meetings, it was never just me and Dondo, but 1 or 2 other people. These are the interesting bits. During our conversation in a meeting with Dondo Mogajane, Raliom then softly whispered to me regarding our earlier agreement that I should pay an amount of 1 million rand to Dondo Mogajane. That is when Raliom shared a whisper with Dondo, and then Dondo said 1 million rand is fine, nodding his head. In short, the purpose of this meeting was none other than to confirm the payment of 1 million rand and the bank account where it was to be made. I then inquired from where this payment was to be made, and that is when Raliom received a piece of paper from Dr. Mkhize, who was there with Dondo Mogajane, and in turn handed that piece of paper to me. On that paper were the banking details. I then inquired if these were the banking details into which I was to make the 1 million rand payment for Dondo Mogajane. Dondo Mogajane said yes. I then left the meeting and the 4 of them remained. Following the above, an amount of 1 million rand was paid into the provided Standard Bank account with which the number, and he provides the bank account number. This bank account belongs to Bapilile Foundation NPC. See the copy. Therefore attached, marked and annexed. To my knowledge, this foundation is under the control of Dr. Mkhize. Remember, Dr. Mkhize came with Dondo Mogajane to the meeting. The payment was intended for Dondo Mogajane to intervene and facilitate the withdrawal of the National Treasury letter and to grant VBS the special dispensation of 18 months for it to continue to accept the municipal investments. At the time, VBS had already started the process to convert into a commercial bank. And in VBS's view, the envisaged 18 months would have given them sufficient time for the process to be expedited. That's the part about Dondo Mogajane. Now, let's move to the EFF. How did they benefit? And I quote, "To my knowledge, Scamega is a company owned by Brian Shivambu, a brother of Floyd Shivambu, who is the deputy president of the EFF. The company was provided to me by Floyd Shivambu to make payments that I promised to the EFF. I made this promise following the news which had broken in the media that VBS had granted Jacob Zuma a home loan for his Nkandla residence. Negative publicity arose in the country, particularly from those that were opposed to Zuma at the time. Among those was the EFF." I want to pause there and say, this is actually confirmed. I've got a story here that the producers found for me, where the EFF was actually calling for a probe into the loan that VBS had given to Jacob Zuma.
And before Clement goes on, you remember, guys, speaking about this Gamega project. This Gamega project, it is the company that belongs to Floyd Shivambu's brother. And you remember last year, the Parliament's Ethics Committee found Floyd Shivambu guilty of not declaring the money that he got from Gamega project. You still remember that, guys? The Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interest has found that Honorable Floyd Shivambu, Member of Parliament, has breached item 10.1.1.1 of the Code of the Ethical Conduct and Disclosure of Members' Interest for National Assembly and Permanent National Council of Provinces member for failing to comply with the requirements of the provisions for disclosing financial interest in respect of the 180,000 rand that was paid to him in 2017 by Gamega project. So Floyd Shivambu actually got the money from Gamega project, and these are the dates. And this is how Floyd Shivambu actually got that money. The first payment happened on the 18th of August 2017. He got 100,000 rands. The second payment happened on the 24th of August 2017, and he got 30,000 rand. And the third payment happened on the 26th of August 2017, and he got 50,000 rand. So all of it is 180,000 rand. And Floyd Shivambu never declared that money. And this is the reason why the Parliament Ethics Committee actually found him guilty of not declaring the same funds.
In the statement that the EFF been released, said the EFF will also seek further clarity on the main source and principle that led to the mutual bank, which is supposed to benefit ordinary people in Vembe, granting a loan to Mr. Zuma. Stay with me. I'm trying to demonstrate to you that what Tshifhiwa Matodzi is saying here about what the EFF said is true. And this is confirmed. You can go Google the articles where the EFF actually were not happy with the mutual bank granting a loan to Zuma. Still with me? Okay. He goes back further to say the EFF had started a campaign of mentioning VBS in its political rallies through its president, Julius Malema. As chairman of VBS, I then decided that Malema and the EFF should be approached for VBS to explain its position and how the loan was granted. Yeah? Then the meeting was arranged for me to meet Julius Malema at the EFF's penthouse in Sandton around April-May 2017. I went there alone. Present there was Julius Malema, Floyd Shivambu, and Marshall Dlamini. Marshall Dlamini did not participate in the meeting. He was seated far from where the engagement took place. Paragraph 27. I explained the VBS position to Floyd and Malema and the fact that the EFF's negative commentary about VBS Zuma transaction was damaging the VBS reputation. Furthermore, I explained that as black brothers, the EFF's constituencies were VBS target market also. I further informed them that the VBS was willing to offer a donation to the EFF. I then proposed that VBS can donate 5 million rand immediately once a bank account has been opened at VBS and 1 million rand per month to the EFF. I also made it clear that the amount could only be deposited into a VBS account and that the EFF should therefore open a bank account with the VBS. After I left this meeting, Floyd and I remained in contact. At some stage, Floyd indicated that they have opened an account at VBS in the name of a company called Sgameka. Remember, Sgameka is owned by Floyd Shivambu's brother. So Floyd Shivambu tells this man, we have opened a bank account under the name of the company called Sgameka. Then a transfer of 5 million rand, as promised, was made on my instructions to Sgameka on the 8th of June 2017. Subsequent payments were made to Sgameka's VBS account every month and were paid from Vele Investments and any of Vele's subsidiaries. Myself, Julius Malema, and Floyd understood that concept of donation meant gratification. Hence, Floyd and Julius did not provide me with the EFF's own banking details for the donations. Further subsequent meetings were held between Julius, Floyd, and myself. The notable one was where Julius and Floyd informed me that they needed funding to renovate an EFF restaurant called Grand Azania in Soweto. I informed them of a VBS facility for such loans and referred them to David Ntlokwe, then the general manager of credit at VBS, to attend to this request. This loan application was made through Sgameka and was approved, although I did not know the amount. After VBS was placed under curatorship, I met Floyd and his younger brother, Brian, several times at Floyd's residence in Bryanston. This was the first time I met Brian. At one of the meetings, myself, Floyd, and Brian agreed to regularize the 5 million rand plus 1 million rand monthly donations. It was agreed amongst us that we draft a contract between Vele and Sgameka for consulting work in the petroleum and storage facilities. The said contract, which we backdated by agreement, was drafted by the Shivambu brothers. The signatories to that contract were myself, representing Vele, and Brian, who was representing Sgameka. See the copy here. Oh my goodness. I could go on and on. The point here is what Tshifhiwa Matodzi is saying here, Floyd Shivambu or Julius Malema have said in the past. I'll play you clips of people like Abu Florence Razilani who are mentioned here and what they have said in the past. Till today, we still don't know what the contractual agreement between Floyd Shivambu's brother's company and Vele Investments, which was really looting money from VBS, was. We still don't know that. Why? Because according to Tshifhiwa Matodzi, they wanted to regularize the 5 million rand plus 1 million rand monthly donations that were going to go to the EFF. Not because there was actually a consultancy relationship between Sgameka and Vele Investments. And remember, that's always been the position of even Floyd Shivambu. He said, but my brother did work. My brother worked for Vele Investments. They had their own consultancy work and their own consultancy contract. The man who signed that contract with him, the brother says, no. This contract was only manufactured to regularize those donations to the EFF with money that's flowing from VBS into Vele, then to the EFF.
Or this is the reason why Floyd Shivambu said that his brother was providing the services. Or this is the reason why they said that they were providing the services. So basically the EFF got the money, the hush money, not to expose Jacob Zuma and the VBS. So the EFF saw that, okay, Jacob Zuma got this loan from VBS, and we are going to expose these people for giving Jacob Zuma this loan. So VBS called the EFF and said, guys, please, man, don't say anything. Let's draft a contract so that you guys can get something too. And the EFF, instead of continuing to expose the corruption, because these are the custodians of blackness, these people are stealing for poor black people. Instead of the EFF continuing to expose what was happening in the VBS, they took the money. So the EFF got the hush money. It is the hush money. Man, this story is insane.
let's take a break and take the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. You can give us some calls, WhatsApps as well, 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. What questions do you still have around how politicians were implicated in this scheme? There's also some parts that I'll read for you about Dr. Zweli Mkhize, because this man also details the meeting that he had with Zweli Mkhize and even the SACP. These are people who claim to represent the workers.
Exactly.
And Tshifhiwa Matodzi says they were busy having secret meetings with him.
So everyone wanted to eat. All the politicians, they knew that there is a tap water of money there in the VBS. So everyone wanted to eat. Everyone. The custodians of blackness, Jacob Zuma, SACP, ANC, Treasury, all of them, they wanted something. And these are the people that are trusted to take care of the country. Isn't it crazy that right now when you go on social media, you will find the South Africans defending the politicians that were getting so much money? For what? That were getting so much money, and this money belonged to the poor citizens of this country. Man, I'm not surprised when they talk about Zweli Mkhize. Man, Zweli Mkhize, you remember even with COVID-19 funds, Zweli Mkhize is always at the center of corruption scandals. Every time when there's a corruption scandal, you will find Zweli Mkhize there. I'm not surprised, but I'm actually shocked by how the EFF is actually being implicated by this whole thing. Like last time when I said, man, like these people actually took money so that Jacob Zuma can be protected.
The SACP received money from VBS.
Man.
So did the ANC through Zweli Mkhize, according to Tshifhiwa Matodzi. I'll read for you what he says after the headline.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Maniatela.
On 702.
All right, 22 minutes now before 10 o'clock. I've read you Tshifhiwa Matodzi's affidavit. The reason this affidavit is so crucial is because this is the man who was the kingpin behind this looting of the over 1.8 billion rand of pensioners' funds. Poor people in and around Venda lost their pension. They lost their hard-earned monies that they saved with the bank because we have politicians and business people that are so filthy greedy. So Tshifhiwa Matodzi has mentioned some of them. So far, I've read to you what he says about the former Director General of Treasury, Dondo Mogajane. I've read to you what he has said about meetings that he had with Floyd Shivambu and Julius Malema, and how they discussed that Floyd Shivambu's brother would start a company and they would regularize the 5 million rand and the 1 million rand monthly payment to the EFF that would flow through that company, because obviously they didn't want a direct link between his company that was using money from VBS to the economic freedom fighters. We still don't have evidence of the relationship that Floyd Shivambu's brother's company had with Vele Investments, because he says, well, I had a consultancy work with them. I even have a contract to show for it. But this man says, oh no, we signed that contract, all of us together. In fact, it's the Shivambu brothers who worked on that contract. We signed it together, and it was just to regularize the money that was flowing to the EFF. Now, I need to read you a little bit about Dr. Zweli Mkhize. This is on page 67 of the affidavit, and it says, around 2016, a meeting was arranged to meet with Dr. Zweli Mkhize, who at the time was the Treasurer General of the ANC. The meeting was held at Mapilo Boardroom in Rivonia. Present was Dr. Mkhize, Andile, myself, and I think there was other members in the meeting who I cannot recall. The meeting was probably arranged by Joseph Nkadimeng. The purpose of the meeting was to ask Dr. Mkhize to assist VBS with accessing much larger facilities at the PIC. I recall an amount of 2 million rand, which was paid via Joseph Nkadimeng, or Tseke Nkadimeng, which was requested by Dr. Mkhize. The request was that the payment was for an ANC supplier. No further engagements after that were held with Dr. Mkhize after that meeting. For the SACP, he says, after the news that VBS had granted former President Jacob Zuma the loan, the SACP published a statement through its Gauteng chairperson at the time, Mr. Jacob Mamabolo. By the way, I did call Jacob Mamabolo this morning before I went on air. I asked him, can he come and explain what happened here? What he's being mentioned in an affidavit, and he said, I can't come. I don't want to comment on this right now. So the story was alleging that VBS was doing business with Gupta-linked entities called Vardospan and Habib Bank. I then instructed Gogoro Communications to obtain contacts for the relevant SACP individuals. A meeting was arranged by Gogoro for a meeting with SACP Gauteng team headed by Jacob Mamabolo and the VBS team led by Andile. I did not attend this meeting. Another meeting was later arranged between Mamabolo and I at the Boutique Hotel in Groenkloof, Pretoria. The meeting was a follow-up on the meeting held with Andile's team and how the relationship between VBS and the SACP could be improved. Another meeting was held between myself and Mamabolo at the Palazzo Hotel in Fourways. At this meeting, discussions were general in nature, and Mamabolo wanted to know more about VBS and how members of the SACP could be approached to bank with VBS. Around July 2017, I received a call from Mamabolo seeking assistance with the settlement of the SACP conference bill of 3 million rand at the Birchwood Hotel in Kempton Park. Oh my God, I remember I was at this conference. On the 6th of July 2017, the 3 million rand that Jacob Mamabolo asked for was paid directly to the Birchwood Hotel from MML Food Services. There were no further requests from the SACP regarding payments.
So SACP just wanted the piece of the pie.
Okay, so that's what it is said there about Jacob Mamabolo. After the break, I'm going to bring in Pauli van Wyk because she broke a story about how these monies were flowing way before any of us had the slightest idea of the grand scale of this fraud and corruption involving VBS. It's 17 minutes before 10.
Your voice.
Your station.
And I must say that, man, Pauli van Wyk is really resilient, man. I remember, man, even me too, man. At some point, I used to say, but Pauli, but now it's starting to sound like you are reaching, man. All of these things that you are talking about. At some point, I thought that it was just a conspiracy theory to settle whatever score that she had with the EFF. And now that these people are exposed by the kingpin of the collapse of the EFF, it all makes sense. Pauli had her finger on the pulse this whole time, despite the South Africans and many people actually saying that, no, this woman is starting to sound crazy, man. She's sounding crazy. There is no way that all of these things that she's talking about are true. People were laughing at her, saying that she's obsessed with Julius Malema, saying that she wants to be in a relationship with Floyd Shivambu. This is how people were actually categorizing Pauli van Wyk. But now that she's been vindicated, man, I must say that, man, this woman, man, is resilient. I must say, she's resilient. She's been speaking about these things, man, for years. 4 years. Some of us paid attention to it until we ignored her. You know, when you pay attention to something and the tangible evidence doesn't come out until you say, man, nah, I'm no longer going to pay attention to anything Pauli van Wyk says about the EFF and these graphs that she posted, how the money flew from this person to that person. I said, no, Pauli van Wyk, man, no. Get the hell out of here with that information. Like, it is a lie. It is a lie. It is a lie. But something that actually kept me curious is the fact that all of these people that Pauli van Wyk used to mention, they never said anything about her. They never took her to court, not even once. They never took her to court, not even once. I guess this is the only thing that actually made people, as much as people were feeling like she was spreading conspiracy theories, but people were actually giving her the benefit of the doubt because these political parties and these politicians and some of the people that she mentioned in her reports, they never took her to court, not even once. So we always gave her the benefit of the doubt for that.
Your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyatela.
on 702.
15 minutes now before 10 o'clock. Pauli van Wyk is a journalist with the Daily Maverick. Pauli, thanks for making time for us. You have gone through this interesting affidavit as well. I want to start off with what you have reported about how monies flowed from VBS to the economic freedom fighters. How much of this affidavit by Tshifhiwa Matodzi confirms what you have already reported about, stuff that even the EFF threatened that they will take you to court, but I don't remember if that matter ever ended up in the court. So how much of this affidavit confirms what you've already reported about?
Good morning, Clement. It's an interesting affidavit, and it shows how the money went to a number of office bearers in VBS, and then, of course, a number of politicians, including the EFF. Now, what I wrote about is that they received the money, Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu, through a number of fronts, through a ruse that was not true. Brian Shivambu, the brother of Floyd, told the country that it was consulting fees. So it's now showing by Matodzi's affidavit that this was absolutely not true, that the money was gratification, meaning that that everyone involved, Julius and Floyd, knew that this was illegal and unlawful. They tried to cover up the matter after the VBS situation exploded. And in essence, he says the EFF's political power is for sale. And what I wrote about is how they also spent the money on their lifestyles and on cars and properties. But what's interesting from Matodzi's affidavit further is that it was supposed to be a donation, in quotation marks. It's not really a donation, illegal money to the EFF.
Yeah.
And the further interesting thing is that very little of that money actually ended up at the EFF, but rather in the leaders' pockets.
So, oh my goodness. So, Pauli, there was a time when you reported about Scamega, because that's how the money flowed the monies from VBS to Vele and then to Scamega. And the explanation at the time, in fact, Abel, please give me that clip by Floyd Shivambu, where he explains that Scamega actually had a contract, right, with Vele Investments. And I want us to listen to that, and I'll come back to Pauli to explain what this affidavit says that contradicts what Floyd Shivambu said on the SABC a few years ago.
Some people had brought to my attention that there's a mentioning of Brian Shivambu. I then contacted my younger brother, Brian Shivambu, to check what could have happened. And then he came to then say that he has had business dealings with Vele Investments, which has got a lot of... It's a major shareholder of VBS. And then he said that the kind of businesses that he has had relationship with Vele on were on non-banking interests and assets of Vele Investments. And then he said that there's an allegation that he got money illegally, and then he said that there is a contractual basis between his company and Vele that they were...
There it is. He says there was a contractual basis between his brother's company and Vele Investments. But what Tshifhiwa Matodzi is saying, who was the big boss at Vele, in this affidavit, is that there was no relationship. In fact, it was agreed, and I quote here, it was agreed amongst us that we draft a contract between Vele and Scamega for consulting work in the petroleum and storage facilities. This contract, which we backdated by agreement, was drafted by the Shivambu brothers. And this was a contract that was meant to regularize the monies that were going to flow into Scamega and to the EFF. Do we know, Pauli, what relationship? Because I don't remember if Floyd Shivambu's brother was ever able to prove the kind of work that he did for Vele Investments. Because based on the Vele Investments boss, there was no work. That was just a fictitious contract drafted just to ensure there's a flow of money without implicating the EFF.
Absolutely, Clement. And may I just congratulate you on unearthing that clip. This is the kind of journalism we are used to on your show, so well done for that. So let's check that from the top. because we have Floyd now on his own version. He said to the SABC, checked what could have happened. I had to check with Brian what could have happened. Now, that is a lie, Clement, because we know now from the affidavit on under oath from Matodzi is that he and Brian backdated a contract by themselves. He knew what happened, and he was in all the meetings along with Julius Malema from the very start with Matodzi and colluding to extract money from VBS. So Floyd didn't have to check what happened. He knew what happened. He was in the middle of it, and he was the directing hand behind it. Then he speaks of business dealings with Vele that Brian told him about, and that there was consulting fees and that there was this contractual basis for the money flowing to Jamaica. This is, again, a series of 3 lies, because there was no business dealings, and I can confirm that because I looked at the expenses and the income from Jamaica. Now, the expenses doesn't show that there were any people working for Jamaica. They didn't rent any office buildings. They didn't have laptops. They didn't have cars. Nothing that you would expect a business to be was Jamaica. It only ever received money from VBS, nothing from any other company ever, like you would expect a consulting company to have. And Matodzi says they backdated, meaning it's a fraudulent contract.
That's fraudulent.
After the fact. Yeah, it's a fraudulent contract after the fact, when VBS imploded, and this is important. They realized there's going to be trouble, and therefore they created a contract to offer a veneer of credibility.
Oh my goodness! So, in fact, I read to the listeners, because the whole idea is the EFF, remember, started taking a very negative stance towards VBS when it gave Zuma a loan. And then that's when Matodzi said, hey, let me meet with these guys because I need their support. After that meeting, the EFF messagings about VBS started changing. And I've got a statement here that's dated March 11, 2018 by the EFF, where the EFF is raising questions around the curatorship of VBS Mutual Bank. So the tone then began to change. But now we understand why the tone changed, because according to Tshifhiwa, that's after the meeting was held and the monies were beginning to flow. Just lastly, Pauli, were you shocked reading about Dondo Mogajane? I have to be honest, I was quite shocked to read about it. He's one of the best director generals we've had, has never really had the scandals. What did he tell you when you contacted him for comment?
Yeah, I was very surprised and very shocked, and I really do still hope that it's not true. So because I was so shocked, I immediately sent Dondo a screen grab and a message and asked him, Dondo, I have to write about this and I need your comment and we need to chat about this. And he phoned me back yesterday evening and we had a long chat, and he in essence said that the allegations were nonsense, that it was hogwash, and that there's absolutely no evidence to back up Matodzi's facts. And what he also said, which is backed up by another source that I have in Treasury, who worked with Dondo during this time. Dondo said, you know what, we fought VBS. VBS wanted us to remove or to retract the circular that we sent out that the municipalities need to withdraw their money from VBS. And that is an indication that I didn't cave and that I didn't receive the money, because I never caused that circular to be retracted, and I fought these guys. That's what he said to me. So I think now we have these 2 versions, one under oath and one verbal from Dondo, and he will have to fight this and explain this. Because at the moment there is this allegation hanging over his head, and you know that he's the chair of the GPF Board of Trustees.
There are many
guarding more than 2 trillion rand by South Africans. And this is extremely serious.
Absolutely.
And I'm very worried about
I also spoke to him this morning because I did invite him on the show. I told him, listen, I'm reading the affidavit. This is what it says about you. I need you on the show. And unfortunately, he was getting into a meeting. But I hope he'll come in the show and we can put the allegations that are made in this affidavit and he can respond for himself. Equally so, I hope at some point, and I'll ask the producers to reach out to Floyd, reach out to the EFF, so we can talk about what's being mentioned here. And they can even respond to my questions and your questions as our listeners on how they've been involved here. Thank you so much, Pauli van Wyk, journalist with Daily Maverick. It's 6. Oh, wait, Pauli, before you go, please bring Pauli back. Pauli, did they ever take you to court?
Never.
All right. Thank you. That tells you. The EFF threatened when Pauli was reporting about all of these things and how the EFF benefited from VBS. Like, we're going to take you to court. We'll show you. Have they?
No.
Police says no. She hasn't been served. What does that tell you, my friends? It's 5 minutes before 10 o'clock. After the break, I bring Tshifhiwa Matodzi, and we're going to talk about how some of the ANC people have been implicated.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clements Manyatela.
on 702.
All right, it's now 4 minutes before 10 o'clock. Tshifhiwa Matodzi is the EWN Associate Politics Editor. Tshidi, thanks for making time. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Can I just start by saying the funniest moment is hearing Pauli saying
Never.
about him taken to court. She has done a brilliant job in tracking the money.
Oh, and she was attacked. She faced death threats.
And she was attacked for it.
She was attacked for it. They told her she must be raped and killed. They found her address. And now, the very man who is at the center of VBS is singing like a bird and implicating them and saying actually what Pauli has said is true. Let's look at the ANC, Tshidi. Denim Caesar is mentioned here as someone who was putting pressure on the municipalities to illegally invest money, and in turn he was getting gratuitous payments. Florence Radzilani as well, Tshifhiwa says, was paid 300,000 rand, and she also asked for a Christmas present as well. Monies continue to flow. Whatever happened to these people? Florence Radzilani is now the MEC in Limpopo.
Our social development in Limpopo. Suddenly, what you're hearing, because of the period, Clement, where this issue, VBS, was used against Florence Radzilani when she was making a play for premier. Remember, at some point, she was tipped to become the first woman premier of the province. And when she attempted that, VBS was used against her. When she attempted to become chairperson of the ANC in Limpopo in 2022, VBS was used against her. Suddenly, VBS is not relevant. She's not being charged. And she's not it's permissible for it to become social development MEC, which is what you're seeing now, which kind of tells you about the kind of power Florence Radzilani still holds as far as Zembe is concerned on the ground. There's a reason why somebody like her is rewarded. What's been interesting for me is watching Denim Caesar, who made a bid to become the provincial secretary back in 2022, and he was blocked at every turn. If you remember, he was not even allowed to contest. He was a shoot-in. I mean, they call him the king of Limpopo, and if you speak to people in the ANC in Limpopo, it's almost like they've been programmed to praise Denim Caesar. So his hold of people around conference time is clear. But for me, what's interesting is the request for money from VBS around conference time. A lot of the things that you hear when you cover politics is about the role of money and patronage networks around conferences. And when you look at the timeline around the VBS claims allegations in this affidavit, a lot of it is around elections. There's some in the lead up to 2017. This is 2016 relations, because they met in 2016. I also think it's very important that I say to you, he speaks about a relationship between Kabelo Matsepe and Denim Caesar.
Yeah.
And I laughed when I read that, because I know that relationship to be a father and son relationship too. I've known that relationship for long, and I know that one is the other's runner.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that they're placed together in an affidavit.
So many things confirm what this man is raising in the affidavit. Masa, our friend, has just sent me pictures of us at this SACP conference when we were reporting for EWN in July 2017. And this affidavit says that conference was paid for by money from VBS. Jacob Mamabolo, I called him this morning. He says, no, I'm not commenting on that. But he seems to be the guy that facilitated this whole thing.
But that's the so-called vanguard of the
The vanguard of workers.
That's meant to be the authority, the moral compass, really, of the tripartite alliance. And I think for me, Clement, it speaks to allegations you've heard about a blading Monday. It speaks to multiple allegations that you've heard. And when you look at the press of the SACP, so it is an organization that hardly ever has money. And I do remember that conference as well. And the questions have to be asked about where do they go raise funds.
Yeah.
And there's a greater question, I think, about the role of money in our politics. We often speak about it. From time to time, think about the CR17 statements. From time to time, it comes up as an issue, but it's actually never resolved. And it's actually a practice that they're not willing, seemingly, to let go of it. As we speak, the EFF itself is going to a national conference at the end of the year. At what cost do positions get secured? Is a question we need to ask and need to probe.
Tshifhiwa Matodzi, EWN Associate Politics Editor, thanks for your time.
Guys, I must say that it is a lot to take in. It is a lot to take in. And this is a developing story. I'm sure that we will get to know, or we will get to learn more about what actually happened in VBS as time goes. But it's a lot to take in, man. You know, when you listen to to what these politicians are actually doing, man, it makes you feel like, as an average South African doing an honest job, man, you will never get to live your dreams. Look at what these people are doing to enjoy their lives. Look at what these people are doing to enjoy their lives, man. It's insane. It's insane. Because now we know that for a fact that VBS has collapsed. We know that VBS has collapsed. We know that people have lost their life savings. But who took the money? That is where the debate is right now. This is where the debate is right now. So, guys, I hope, man, we will come back with the story. We'll come back to the story if there are any new developments. Man, it's a lot to take in. Guys, what do you think about the new affidavit? What do you think about what has been said by the former chair of VBS and implicating all of these politicians? Do you think that he's doing this just to distract us, or do you think that the man has nothing to lose? So he's basically telling South Africans what happened there with the VBS. It's been years, but South Africans never actually got closure about what happened in VBS. What are your thoughts? Please tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button, and the most important part, subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabel, so I will see you next time. Bye-bye.